There is a way to live where your heart is not easily disturbed, where your spirit is not shaken by the words or actions of others. Many people spend their lives reacting to what people say, to what people do, and to the unfair things that come against them. Yet there is a higher life, a life where you are not ruled by emotion, but guided by peace. This life does not mean you will never face difficulties or encounter difficult people. It means you will learn how to live above them, never letting anger or irritation control your heart. The first key is to recognize that people are not the real enemy. Often, we think our struggle is with flesh and blood, with the one who spoke against us, or the one who wronged us. But in reality, the deeper battle is spiritual. If you can see beyond the surface, you will realize that anger and offense are traps set to steal your joy, rob your peace, and disconnect you from your destiny. When you understand this, you no longer waste your energy fighting people. You rise higher, and you let love, patience, and understanding flow through you. Another important truth is that your identity must be rooted in something unshakable. If your sense of worth depends on the approval of others, you will always be vulnerable to their criticism or rejection. But when you know who you are, when you know you are chosen, loved, and accepted, you no longer need to defend yourself. You can stay calm when others misunderstand you, because their words do not define you. This freedom keeps anger far from your heart. Forgiveness is also a powerful weapon. Anger grows when unforgiveness takes root. Many people carry heavy burdens inside, holding on to grudges and rehearsing offenses in their minds. But forgiveness sets you free. It does not excuse the wrong, but it releases you from the poison of bitterness. When you forgive quickly and often, you disarm anger before it can take hold. Your heart becomes light, your mind becomes clear, and your spirit becomes strong. Another way to never get bothered is to control your thoughts. Every feeling begins with a thought. When someone offends you, you can choose to meditate on the hurt or shift your focus to something higher. If you replay their words again and again, anger will rise. But if you choose to think on peace, on love, and on what is good, your emotions will align with those thoughts. You cannot always stop people from speaking against you, but you can stop their words from living in your mind. Finally, cultivate inner peace through prayer, gratitude, and stillness. A peaceful heart is like a shield. When your inner life is calm and strong, external chaos cannot easily disturb you. Spend time strengthening your inner man, and you will discover that anger loses its grip. Even when people try to provoke you, you will respond with grace. Even when situations press you, you will remain steady. Peace will guard you, and joy will overflow. This is how you rise above anger and live unbothered, no matter what comes your way. When you begin to see people not as enemies, but as opportunities to practice love and patience, your entire perspective on life changes. Many times, the reason anger rises so quickly is because we perceive the actions or words of others as a direct attack against us. We feel threatened, dishonored, or mistreated, and in our human nature, we want to retaliate, defend ourselves, or at least carry the hurt within. But if you shift your vision, if you train yourself to see people differently, you will notice that instead of being obstacles to your peace, they become instruments through which you grow in character, maturity, and grace. What once bothered you becomes a tool for your transformation. Consider how easily relationships can be strained when we hold on to the mindset that people are our enemies. A careless comment, a harsh tone, or an unfair action can instantly make us defensive. We see the person as someone against us rather than someone who may themselves be struggling, broken, or unaware of how their actions affect others. The truth is, everyone you meet is fighting their own battles, carrying their own wounds, and dealing with their own frustrations. When you begin to view others through that lens, it is easier to respond with compassion instead of anger. Instead of taking offense, you can say to yourself, here is another chance to practice patience. Here is another opportunity to let love guide me. Every encounter in life can either make you bitter or better. If you allow anger to dominate, you become trapped in cycles of offense, bitterness, and resentment. But when you choose to see people as opportunities to practice love, you are training your inner man to grow stronger, wiser, and freer. The difficult coworker who tests your limits is not your enemy, but your teacher in patience. The family member who misunderstands you is not your foe, but your practice ground for unconditional love. Even strangers who cross your path with rudeness or harshness can become reminders that you are called to rise above, to respond differently than the world expects. This mindset does not mean you become weak or allow others to mistreat you. On the contrary, it makes you stronger, because anger is easy but love requires strength. Anyone can lash out, anyone can retaliate, but it takes a person of inner power to stay calm, to keep peace, and to show kindness even when it is undeserved. Each time you resist anger and instead practice love and patience, you are building spiritual muscles. Just as physical exercise strengthens the body, these moments of testing strengthen the soul. There is also great freedom in this perspective. When you stop labeling people as enemies, you release yourself from unnecessary battles. Life is too short to waste your energy fighting people who do not truly have power over your destiny. By seeing them as opportunities for growth, you free your mind from constant frustration. You begin to walk lighter, because nothing can easily disturb you. Instead of carrying offense, you carry understanding. Instead of holding grudges, you hold peace. Love and patience are not passive, they are active choices. Every day you are given countless moments to choose how you will respond. Will you let anger rise, or will you take the higher road of patience? Will you let offense poison your heart, or will you let love guard it? The more you choose love, the less power anger has over you. Soon, you will find that what used to bother you no longer affects you. What once stole your peace now becomes fuel for your growth. That is the secret of seeing people not as enemies but as opportunities. Every encounter becomes a chance to rise higher, to grow deeper, and to live freer. When your identity is rooted in unshakable truth and not in the opinions of people, you gain a stability that nothing in this world can take away. So many live on an emotional roller coaster because they measure their worth by what others think or say about them. One moment they feel good when they are praised, the next they feel worthless when criticized. This constant fluctuation robs them of peace and causes them to react in anger whenever they feel misunderstood or disrespected. But when your foundation is firm, when you know who you are regardless of human opinion, you live with freedom, strength, and serenity. The truth is, people's opinions are fragile and ever-changing. Someone may celebrate you today, but criticize you tomorrow. People may approve of you as long as you fit their expectations, but the moment you disappoint them, their view can shift. If you build your life on such a shaky foundation, you will constantly be tossed back and forth, trying to please everyone and hurt when you cannot. However, if your identity is anchored in the truth that you are already loved, already chosen, already valuable, then no words of rejection can shake you. You are free to stand firm in your worth without needing validation from those around you. When you know your identity, anger loses its grip over you. Imagine someone speaking against you or questioning your motives. If your sense of self depends on their approval, you will feel defensive, upset, or offended. But if you already know your value, their words no longer carry the same weight. You can listen without being shaken, respond without hostility, and move forward without carrying the burden of offense. You realize that the opinions of people do not define you, nor do they determine your destiny. This realization is one of the most liberating truths you can embrace. The strongest individuals are not those who demand recognition, but those who remain steady when no recognition comes. They do not need the applause of people, because their sense of worth is rooted in something far deeper. That stability allows them to walk through life without being easily angered or bothered by criticism, gossip, or misunderstanding. Instead of reacting, they can remain calm. Instead of defending themselves endlessly, they can let their peace speak louder than their words. Rooting your identity in unshakable truth also gives you the courage to love others freely. When you are insecure, you are always on guard, easily offended, and quick to misinterpret people's actions. But when you are secure in who you are, you no longer view others as threats. You can treat them with kindness, even when they do not treat you well, because you are not depending on them for your value. This freedom creates space for patience, compassion, and forgiveness to flow out of you naturally. This way of living requires a daily choice. It means reminding yourself often that your worth is not attached to the shifting words or actions of people. It means refusing to let gossip, rejection, or criticism live in your mind. It means choosing to stay rooted in truth, even when lies are spoken about you. Over time, this mindset becomes your shield. People will still talk, some may still misunderstand you, but none of it will reach your core. You will walk through life with peace in your heart, clarity in your mind, and strength in your spirit. That is the power of an identity rooted in truth. It makes you unshakable, untouchable by offense, and free to live above anger. Forgiveness is one of the most powerful tools to guard your heart from anger and offense. Many people live burdened, not because of what is happening in the present, but because of what they are carrying from the past. They replay conversations in their minds, relive hurts, and allow bitterness to take root deep within them. This unhealed pain becomes a constant source of anger, easily triggered whenever something reminds them of the past. Forgiveness, however, breaks that cycle. It does not excuse the wrong done, but it releases you from being chained to it. When you forgive, you free your own heart, and you make space for peace, joy, and love to flow again. Holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting someone else to suffer. The longer you keep grudges, the heavier they become. You might think you are punishing the other person by refusing to forgive, but in reality you are punishing yourself. Anger festers, bitterness grows, and soon it begins to shape how you see life and how you respond to others. Forgiveness, on the other hand, lifts that heavy burden. It allows you to live light and free, no longer controlled by the actions or words of someone who hurt you. When you forgive quickly, anger has no room to take root. Small offenses are inevitable in daily life. Someone will misunderstand you, overlook you, or speak in a way that stings. If you allow those small things to pile up, they become bigger than they should be, and anger begins to dominate your heart. But when you choose to release offenses as soon as they come, they lose their power. You protect your heart from becoming a storage place of pain. Just as you keep your home clean by not letting trash accumulate, you keep your heart clean by forgiving daily. Forgiveness is also a choice, not a feeling. Many wait to forgive until they feel like it, but those feelings rarely come. If you wait for emotions to lead, anger will remain in control. Forgiveness begins as a decision of the will. You choose to let go. You choose to release the offense. You choose to refuse anger's grip. The emotions may still linger at first, but with time, they begin to align with your decision. By choosing forgiveness again and again, you retrain your heart to stay free from bitterness. Another truth about forgiveness is that it empowers you to see others with compassion. When you hold on to anger, you see the offender only through the lens of what they did to you. But when you forgive, you begin to see their brokenness, their weaknesses, their struggles. This shift allows love to grow where anger once lived. You may not forget what happened, but you no longer carry it as a wound. Instead, it becomes a lesson, a place of growth, and even an opportunity for grace to abound in your life. Forgiveness also protects your relationships. Without it, anger slowly erodes trust and intimacy. Families, friendships, and communities break apart when grudges are allowed to rule. But forgiveness restores and strengthens connections. It makes space for reconciliation, healing, and unity. Even if reconciliation is not possible, forgiveness ensures that your heart remains whole and you are not poisoned by resentment. When you live a life of quick forgiveness, anger loses its grip over you. No longer do you carry the heavy chains of grudges. No longer do you allow the past to control your present. You become light, free, and strong. You respond with patience rather than irritation, with understanding rather than offense. Forgiveness keeps your spirit clear and your heart at peace, making it impossible for anger to control your life. Every feeling begins with a thought, and this simple truth holds the key to overcoming anger and offense. Most people believe that emotions happen to them without control, as if they are powerless victims of their own reactions. But in reality, emotions are birthed from the thoughts we choose to entertain. If you constantly replay hurtful words, imagine scenarios of unfairness, or magnify the wrongs done to you, your emotions will naturally grow heavy with anger, resentment, or irritation. Yet if you discipline your mind to focus on peace, gratitude, and what is noble, your emotions will begin to reflect those higher thoughts. The battlefield of anger is won or lost in the mind. When someone offends you, your first reaction may be to dwell on what they said or did. The mind begins to replay it like a broken record. How dare they say that to me? Why would they treat me this way? With each replay, the emotion deepens. Soon, the offense feels larger than life, and anger becomes inevitable. But if, at that very moment, you interrupt the cycle and choose a different thought, you can stop anger before it takes root. You can say, I will not allow this to live in my mind. I choose peace. I choose to think on what is good. That choice is powerful, and over time, it becomes a habit that transforms your emotional life. Guarding your thoughts is much like guarding the entrance to a home. If you allow anyone and anything to enter without discernment, chaos will fill the house. But if you carefully filter what comes in, your home remains peaceful and safe. In the same way, your mind must be guarded. Not every thought deserves a place in your mental space. When an offense knocks at the door, you must decide whether to invite it in or shut it out. Allowing it in will stir up anger, but rejecting it will preserve your peace. One practical way to guard your thoughts is to replace negative meditations with positive ones. For example, instead of thinking, that person disrespected me, you can choose to think, I am still valuable regardless of what they said. Instead of dwelling on the unfairness, you can shift to gratitude for the blessings you already have. Your mind cannot dwell on two things at once. By intentionally choosing uplifting and peaceful thoughts, you starve anger of its fuel. Over time, this habit creates resilience, and you find that offenses no longer penetrate as deeply as they once did. It is also important to recognize how your environment feeds your thoughts. The conversations you engage in, the content you consume, and the voices you surround yourself with all shape your thought patterns. If you are constantly exposed to negativity, gossip, or criticism, your mind becomes conditioned to focus on what is wrong. But if you fill your environment with words of encouragement, uplifting messages, and positive influences, your thoughts naturally align with peace. This discipline of environment is vital if you want to rise above anger and irritation. Training your mind takes time, but it produces lasting freedom. At first, you may find old thoughts of offense creeping in repeatedly. That is normal. The key is not to feel defeated when they come, but to consistently redirect your focus. Each time you replace an angry thought with a peaceful one, you are strengthening a new pathway in your mind. Eventually, peace becomes your default response instead of anger. When you guard your thoughts diligently, you discover a new level of control over your emotions. You realize that no one has the power to make you angry unless you allow their words or actions to live rent-free in your mind. You hold the key, and by choosing your thoughts carefully, you choose your emotions as well. This truth liberates you to live unbothered, steady and calm, no matter what comes your way. Building inner peace through prayer, gratitude, and stillness is one of the most effective ways to keep anger and irritation from controlling your life. Many people try to manage anger by focusing only on outward behavior, attempting to suppress their reactions or hide their frustration. But true freedom from anger begins within. If your inner world is unsettled, it doesn't take much from the outside to trigger you. A single harsh word, a small misunderstanding, or a stressful moment can easily tip you over. However, when your inner world is filled with peace, you become steady and unshakable, no matter what comes against you. Prayer is a powerful anchor for inner peace. When you take time to pour out your worries, frustrations, and burdens in prayer, you are releasing what could otherwise grow into anger. Prayer is not just about asking for things, it is about exchanging your heaviness for peace. In prayer, your heart quiets down, and your perspective changes. What felt overwhelming begins to look smaller, and what once provoked you loses its grip. This daily rhythm of prayer strengthens your inner life so that you are less reactive to external triggers. You begin to carry an atmosphere of peace that follows you into every situation. Gratitude is another powerful practice that protects your heart from irritation. Anger often grows out of dissatisfaction, dwelling on what went wrong, what you lack, or how unfairly you were treated. Gratitude shifts your focus. Instead of fixating on what frustrates you, you choose to acknowledge what is good, what is working, and what you are thankful for. This mental shift is transformative. A grateful heart cannot easily stay angry, because gratitude fills the space where bitterness once lived. When you intentionally practice gratitude, you are training your mind to see blessings instead of offenses. Even in difficult moments, gratitude allows you to remain calm and hopeful rather than angry and resentful. Stillness is equally important in building inner peace. In a fast-paced world filled with noise, constant demands, and endless distractions, it is easy for your soul to become restless. A restless soul is quick to anger because it is already stretched thin. Stillness allows you to slow down, breathe, and reconnect with your center. Taking moments of silence, reflection, or simply being present calms the nervous system and brings clarity. In stillness, your emotions settle, your thoughts clear, and your heart regains balance. This practice trains you to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively when faced with difficult people or situations. When prayer, gratitude, and stillness work together, they form a strong shield for your inner life. Prayer connects you to strength beyond yourself. Gratitude shifts your focus to the positive, and stillness calms your mind and emotions. With these practices, anger has no room to take control. Even when offense comes, you can process it with peace instead of reacting with hostility. You find that situations which once bothered you no longer have the same power over you. This lifestyle requires consistency. Just as you would train your body through daily exercise, you must train your inner life daily through these disciplines. Over time, they create a reservoir of peace within you. When challenges arise, you are not scrambling to find calm. You already carry it. Your words become softer, your responses wiser, and your presence more peaceful. Those around you may even notice that you do not get irritated as easily as before. Living with inner peace does not mean life will always be calm on the outside. Storms will still come, people will still disappoint, and challenges will still arise. But when your inner world is strong, external chaos cannot shake you. You carry peace that flows from within, and that peace becomes your greatest defense against anger and irritation. Responding with grace instead of reaction is one of the most powerful ways to rise above anger and irritation. In life, you cannot control what people say or do, but you can control how you respond. Many people believe their emotions are dictated by others, that if someone insults them, they must be offended, or if someone mistreats them, they must react with anger. But in truth, every response is a choice. You can choose to let anger drive you, or you can choose to rise above and answer with grace. When you choose grace, you take back control over your life, because nothing outside of you can dictate your inner state. Grace-filled responses are not about weakness or passivity. They are about strength and wisdom. Anyone can react impulsively, but it takes real strength to remain calm under pressure. Think of how much energy is wasted when people constantly argue, defend themselves, or retaliate. This cycle often escalates conflict rather than resolving it. But when you respond with grace, you diffuse tension instead of fueling it. Your calmness becomes a force that disarms negativity. In many cases, it even changes the atmosphere of the situation, turning hostility into understanding. Responding with grace also protects your dignity. When you lash out in anger, you often say or do things you later regret. Words spoken in heat can damage relationships, reputations, and even opportunities. But when you pause and answer with grace, you remain in control of yourself. You rise above the pettiness of the moment and keep your integrity intact. People may not remember every word you spoke, but they will remember the spirit in which you responded. Grace leaves a lasting impression that anger never can. One of the keys to responding with grace is learning to pause before reacting. When someone provokes you, your natural instinct may be to answer immediately, to defend yourself or fight back. But even a brief pause gives you the space to choose differently. In that pause, you can take a breath, gather your thoughts, and remind yourself that you do not need to let anger dictate your response. This moment of stillness empowers you to respond in a way that aligns with your values rather than your emotions. Another key is empathy. When you try to see the situation through the other person's perspective, it becomes easier to respond with grace. Often, People lash out because they are hurting, stressed, or insecure. Their words are a reflection of their inner struggles, not your worth. When you recognize this, you stop taking offense personally and begin to respond with compassion. Instead of reacting to their hostility, you can choose to offer kindness or at least refuse to add fuel to their fire. Responding with grace also requires humility. Sometimes, pride makes us feel we must prove ourselves right or win every argument. But true strength is shown in restraint. Choosing not to retaliate does not make you less, it makes you greater. You are no longer a prisoner to anger, but a master of your own spirit. Humility allows you to let go of the need to always be right, and instead focus on maintaining peace. Over time, making a habit of responding with grace transforms not only your life but also your relationships. People around you begin to feel safe, respected, and valued. Even when disagreements arise, they notice that you are not easily shaken, and this builds trust. Your presence becomes a calming influence, and your words carry weight because they are not fueled by anger but by wisdom and peace. When you consistently respond with grace instead of reaction, you rise above anger's control. You become steady in the midst of provocation, calm in the face of conflict, and strong in situations that would shake others. Grace becomes your shield, your strategy, and your testimony. This is how you live unbothered, not because life is without challenges, but because you have chosen a higher way of responding. When you begin to see people not as enemies, but as opportunities to grow, when you anchor your identity in truth instead of opinions, when you forgive quickly and often, when you guard your thoughts with discipline, when you build inner peace through prayer, gratitude, and stillness, and when you respond with grace instead of reaction, you rise above the traps of anger and offense. You discover that no one has the power to steal your peace unless you allow it, and you begin to live a life marked by freedom, joy, and strength. This is the higher way of living, a life not easily shaken, a heart not easily disturbed, and a spirit unbothered no matter what comes your way.